Good evening and welcome to Ruvheneko Live. Thank you for joining us. We took a break last week, but we're back and it's good to be back. And this evening we have a live audience, which is something we've only done once in the history of this live TV online program. So it's going to be interesting to hear from our audience live, as well as you as the audience from wherever you're watching and wherever you are in the world. As we know, the benefit of new media is that we attract audiences from all over the globe at the same time. And this particular topic today affects everybody everywhere, not just Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe, but Zimbabweans everywhere else in the world. And as we know, we all know of the United Nations. And interestingly enough, what you'll learn later on in the program is that there are a few Zimbabweans that don't know what the terms UN, the letters UN stand for. So we're going to find out from them a little bit later on. So stay tuned for that. We did go out into the streets of Harare and we had a chat with some of the young people that are in this country. So without any further ado, let me introduce our guest who is in the studio with us this evening. I was just discussing with him earlier how it's long overdue that he's on our program. So, Mr. Bishow Parajuli, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure.
You've been very busy lately.
Yeah,
a lot has been going on.
You know, UN is engaged in many areas.
Yeah.
And there has been a lot of tough situation lately.
Yeah.
Drought,
For the country,
flood,
correct.
and etc. And
Yeah.
so therefore, we owe to the people of Zimbabwe,
Right.
so we have to be busy.
Right. Well, one thing the term UN and the name United Nations is synonymous with is help. So for me to say that he's been very busy means that there have been a lot of areas that he's been needed help with. So Mr. Parajuli is the UN resident coordinator, and he's also the UNDP country representative. So he wears two hats. And as I said, very, very busy. And he's very active on social media. He is at Bishow Parajuli. And our hashtag for today's conversation is hashtag UNInZim. So hashtag UNInZim. So we can trace our conversation together on Twitter as we understand what it is that the UN has been doing in Zimbabwe, what they're doing right now, and what the future with Zimbabwe and the UN is. So let us first understand your role as the resident coordinator.
Okay, I'm the senior most representative of the UN in Zimbabwe. I, in a way, represent the Secretary General, and I help to coordinate all the development program in Zimbabwe, together with, the various agencies, funds, and program exist in the country.
Right.
So, and then the other part of my hat is I represent the United Nations Development Program. But then I have a team of colleagues who look into the details.
Right.
So don't have to worry about every day-to-day.
You don't worry about the day-to-day stuff.
I do worry, but there are competent colleagues and team who take care of those things.
Right. People like Sirac. I think a lot of people think of the UN and they put Sirac's face there immediately. But we wanted to talk about your function. When we talk about the strategy, the planning, where funds go, what the next step is within Zimbabwe, I believe that is where you're heavily involved. To look at a situation and say, look, it would make sense for the UN to target this area. Is that?
Just backtracking a little bit, in principle, yes, what you say. But what we do is we look at what are the priorities in the country. What are the issues the government has identified is needing. And we look at those, and then as a UN team, we come together and we identify once 4 or 5 years, let's identify our priority as a UN system.
Right.
We did that a year ago, or a little bit more than a year ago. And we call that United Nations Framework of Cooperation. In short, we call it ZUNDAF. And then we agreed that with the government. In fact, we have an agreement signed between myself and the Chief Secretary and all my colleagues, the head of UN agencies in the country.
Right.
And that's how we operate. We identify, and then we work in terms of the detail activities. And then, of course, there can be changes in the process, but that's how we move on.
So primarily your activities are government-led. You look at what government is prioritizing and you say, all right, well, how can we back this? How can we support this in line with what the UN itself stands for? You wouldn't just approach government and say, well, look, we find this area is an area you want to propel.
No, we do look into the challenges the country faces,
right.
And then of course that largely fits into the government priority. But there are also other areas sometimes which are, universal UN values and principle and etc. And then we also engage and support in those areas.
Okay. Now, ZUNDAF, like you referred to, you
Yep.
had an event last week
Yep.
where you were looking at the work that you've done in the past year, the progress made under this program. It's a 5-year program, correct?
That's right.
So after a year, what progress would you say you've made? What milestones have you achieved? And what are you particularly proud of that you want to highlight?
Well, I'm so pleased that you are fully aware of it. First, thank you for that. We had identified 6 areas of cooperation, those being poverty reduction and value addition, agriculture, food and nutrition, then HIV, AIDS, gender, service deliveries, health, education, social services, and then governance and administrative reform.
Right.
So in all of these areas, we have set ourselves a goal, what we want to do, how much we want to achieve, and etc. And I have to point out here, UN works with the development partner for funding supports and etc. UN doesn't have its own money
Correct.
as such. So
you say.
So we then and then we link up with the governments,
Right.
ministries, civil society organization, communities.
Right.
We go down to range of let's say instrument or institutions which helps to achieve maximum in terms of reaching to
Right.
the last person in a village or a household. So the good thing about 16, we achieved quite a significant, in spite of the challenges we faced. We deliver program activities for about $403 million. And across all these areas. But I will also tell you the challenges we face in this. In fact, some areas out of these 6 I just mentioned, we deliver beyond target. In other areas, we are a bit short. We are also faced with one of the worst drought in 35 years in the country.
Sure.
So we had to divert our attention more on food security and agriculture, water sanitation. I'm glad I have my colleague representing the World Food Program here. So we face those challenges and we mobilize additional support. We coordinate with government. Additionally, we mobilize for the particular drought response with generous support from development partners, close to $215 million for the provision of food, agricultural support, water sanitation, and
additional to the 403 million.
Well, part of it comes within it,
Right.
around 80 million.
But that was the allocated budget
yeah.
for food and security.
Yeah. So, and the question of your challenges is, as I was referring, we in certain area we reach beyond target, but in other areas we were sought. So these are the issues we came out in our review exercise.
Right. Which areas were you short in? I'm more curious about that.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, that's a part of our lesson learning.
Yeah.
We believe we need to do more on poverty.
Poverty eradication.
Poverty eradication,
Right.
because Zimbabwe, with the concentrated on rural areas and high level of poverty and etc. We felt we haven't done much there, and it's also fundamental because for moving the country forward, you need growth, and we need to work supporting, generating growth, and that will give you the long-term sustainability of the program.
I'm curious to know how you would target poverty eradication. I mean, you go online and you'll hashtag poverty, zero poverty, right? And it's there, it's a big thing, it's trending, it's happening. But in Zimbabwe, how do you even begin to look at zero poverty when we have a situation like we do now?
To be honest, for Zimbabwe to achieve zero poverty is not that difficult, I will tell you. Because Zimbabwe has abundance of land, and there is not so much a population. Second, it has so much of minerals and those resources available. Third, and most importantly, Zimbabwe has very competent manpower and very educated manpower. So with these three combination, if Zimbabwe was to adopt the right policies and program to attract finance, foreign investment, and also make the business process easier, it's very easy to get people into jobs and attract with the finance coming in, the agricultural productivity. I mean, imagine Zimbabwe has one of the worst agricultural productivity in the region. So, I mean, 800 kilo per hectare, and Malawi itself has almost the double. So, of course, there are factors behind it.
Sure.
I'm excluding the exception of drought last year and the rain this year. So obviously this year with a good rain, there is prospects for a bumper harvest.
I like your attitude toward our country. From your answers, I think also the office that you hold, it's very important to hear how positive you are about how we can come out of where we are and look at the opportunities. You talked about that we have a population that's not as big in comparison to the amount of land that we have. Many will argue, particularly economists will say, well, then what is the value in an investor investing in a population that has about 13 million people? When it comes to numbers, it doesn't make sense. So although we have to look at policies and maybe look at other aspects that would attract FDI, there is that aspect of that. Our population is not big. How many investors are going to choose Zimbabwe over South Africa, for example, where investment is concerned?
I would give you a couple of examples. I was just looking at the statistics of a National Health Institute system in England. There are 4,000 health personnel in England servicing the National Health Institute, in England.
Right.
If you go across the schools in South Africa or Botswana or the neighboring countries, almost every school has Zimbabwean teachers. And if you look at some of these corporations, you have Zimbabwean as CEO and others. I mean, that resource you cannot easily get.
But they're out there.
No, but if we create the positive environment back home,
Yeah.
I have no doubt that they will come back. So
is this a part of your projects as the UN? Is it an area that you're looking at? The Zimbabweans in the diaspora, who you know are up to about 3 million. Is that an area that you want to actively target and say, let's find a way to entice them, to bring them back, if not physically, at least to invest?
You know, we are working, not exclusively looking into that.
Right.
But these are the area as part of our lesson learned we are looking at. For example, the point I was mentioning about poverty is one area. The other area, what we are looking at is how do we sustain the support we have from development partners in this country, and what UN is doing can continue to do it. So to maximize the resource which we have, and keep this in a short term only, because likelihood that to continue get this long term would be difficult. The third aspect is also work on these policies and program so that Zimbabwe stands on its own.
Sure.
And absolutely these are. And another point I want to mention, you mentioned about positivity. In fact,
very positive.
It is fundamental. In fact, I drive my children crazy, bringing positivity to everything.
Yeah.
In the work we do, if we don't have a positive feeling, we can't work on it.
Right.
I've spent 34 years on development field, humanitarian area. Unless you feel that you are going to bring change, you pack and go home, correct?
Why are you here?
Yeah, so I think it's possible. The fact that if you are able to support even few kids to go back to school, you save lives, mothers, children, and you help them with the food in a most critical time of the year.
Sure.
You are helping improve the soul.
Yeah. You talked about 32 years doing this work. How many of those 32 have you spent in your home country of Nepal?
Few years.
Is that even still home for you?
It is. I always go home. In fact, I'm increasingly engaged. And when I leave the UN, I'll go back home and work voluntarily. That's my plan.
Okay. After this? After Zimbabwe or later?
I don't know when, but but definitely, because I feel, and that's why I'm very passionate. You know, I'm always in the developing countries.
Right.
And I mean, Nepal, where I come from, is in a similar, you know, process of development. A lot of challenges from various governance-related issues and development issues and etc. And so therefore, you know, you want to give your best, even if you're not at home, doesn't matter.
Right.
It's a humanity. We're connected into one world now.
Sure. Now, before we take a break, I want to ask a question about one of the bodies that falls under you. And I know that as a father, you're not allowed to favor one child over the other, but this is only because it was headlining in looking up what's happening with the UN. One thing we know lately, most recently, the United States has decided to withdraw its funding to the UNFPA. And looking at the numbers and the work that the UNFPA has done, one can't fathom to understand how so many things are going to be addressed without that money. What does this mean, and how quickly does this take effect?
To be honest, there has been various statements already made by even the Secretary General. There has been a press statement issued by UNFPA. We believe this is based on erroneous understanding or misunderstanding of on some of the work of UNFPA. UNFPA does tremendous good work around the world. It saves women, it saves children, adolescents, girls, in many ways. In fact, I would recommend you to read a book by one of the New York Times column writer. I forgot, Half the World or something. I was reading that book, and he was bringing a story, Nicholas Christoph or something. I forgot the name of the book. And the negative impact of this withdrawal can be enormous in terms of loss of life, missed opportunity, and you know, a lot of violation of basic right for girls and women around the world. So it's very sad, but I hope, and I have seen a number of initiatives by other donors trying to fill in the gap in terms of the resources which might be cut by this particular donor.
So is this going to actually happen?
Well, actually, there was an initiative taken by Sweden, Netherlands, Belgium, recently hosting a meeting in Brussels, asking to mobilize that resources to fill in the gap. But what I would really hope is the misunderstanding is clarified and the donor will come back to join. It has happened in the past as well. And
would you blame this on President Trump?
No, I don't want to blame on anybody, but I think it is a policy. But I hope you know, there will be a better understanding with all these communication which is taking place from the administration.
Because globally, it looks like it's still a battle of superpowers. It means that China is not a friend to the U.S. Looking at what's happened, and part of the reason why they decided to withdraw this funding.
No, you know, there are different issues. It's not. I don't even think
it's black and white.
It is targeted to the agency as such and all. There are historical elements, reason behind these. But I'm also hoping maybe China will join in to fill in the gap, because they are really putting a lot of resource around the world supporting, and the money as such is it's not that large, but the impact of this can be so much significant. And you know, Americans are very generous people, and they are one of the largest contributor to the UN system, civil society organization, and etc. So I'm hoping the society which are supporting UNFPA will come forward, and the gap will be filled, and slowly the misunderstanding will be clarified.
Okay, as we prepare for our break, Mr. Parajuli did not come empty-handed. We have a few giveaways that we're going to give away to you and possibly some in the audience. They're field jackets and a cap. I'm going to ask Jeff, I know he can hear me, if he can just put those on for us as our mannequin for the day and come out and show us what they look like. It's a field jacket and a cap. We've posted on Twitter, so if you follow us on Twitter, that's at Ruvheneko P. I'll probably also tag Bishow, so it's Bishow Parajuli or at UN Zimbabwe. And remember, the hashtag is hashtag UNNZim. So stand by, stay close, and you could be the one walking away with one of these. I know my cameramen are already eyeing them because they're very suitable for that kind of work. So we'll see what favors we can pull. But if Jeff can come out and show us how this looks, that would be amazing. But there are some comments that came in earlier. Oh, there he is. Come through, Jeff. Jason, if you could just, get us a look there.
You look marvelous.
He looks great. I think we can clap hands for him. Ready for the field. So it's a very neat United Nations Zimbabwe field jacket and the matching cap. So we're going to let you know who's going to walk away with those a bit later on. So stay close. Thanks, Jeff. Looking sharp.
Thank you.
Okay. So some of your comments that I'm going to address now. As I said, this is a live platform. Send your questions, your comments. We've got we're halfway through, so we're going to be addressing your concerns and questions about Zimbabwe. Now, some of these questions are throwing us all over the place. So I'm going to start with this first one here from Charles Magagada. He says, I can't make it to the show, Ruvi, but as my contribution towards it goes like this. We really appreciate what the international agency is doing, but still more can be done. On the educational health front, I'm sure they're doing good. But my question is, their interventions are mainly short-term and normally not giving a lasting solution to challenges we are experiencing. We hear of millions being pumped into the country, but are they really targeting the real challenges we're facing? Say if those funds can be used on resuscitating industry.
Well, the point which I was mentioning before, why we want to also work towards certain policies and attract FDI and etc. is precisely to bring a sustainability to our program. We cannot leave a hungry child or a family who needs food and then say, oh, let's pump the money to the industry, which has fallen. Maybe it's been mismanaged. Or certain, group who have unduly benefited and etc. But what I would also say is we do look into how we resuscitate industry. In fact, we had a mission which did a briefing to me yesterday looking at supporting pharmaceutical industries. And there the idea was how to make these industry competitive. And also just to mention to you that our goal is, of course, to bring a long-term impact in our program.
That's what I was going to say. That what you've just answered almost sounds like a fishing rod situation, where if you were to actually target industries, as has been suggested, you are helping that child and mother or that family that doesn't have food. Instead of just giving them truckloads of food, you are actually resuscitating industry because that same mother and child will be supported by those industries because there'll be employment and there'll be money coming into the household. So surely long term.
But we do both. But the point is you need to do both. You can't leave a hungry child and say the industry, the output of the industry benefits it. And the fact that all our program is exclusively targeted to the poor and those who really need help. So therefore, a lot of times these industries probably don't employ these people and are not engaging in those. And that's also a factor into this. And sadly, the level of people needing help is significantly large. Sure. So as a result, our approach is a combination. Provide the immediate support to make sure the kids continue to go to school, and the mother have the medical help, the HIV/AIDS patients at the antiviral drug, but at the same time, maybe bring expertise to look into the industries and see how those could be revived.
Sure.
But in terms of this private sector element to revive, you need an investor, you need a commercial investor, and they have to be made competitive. You might pump a lot of money, and then if it goes in the sand, it's not going to bring much result.
Sure.
I would rather keep the kids continue to school than pump the money in the
Into an
industry
that can collapse.
That can collapse.
Right. You know, just on that note, I'm thinking to myself, surely the entire United Nations, as big and powerful and amazing as you are, surely that you have bigger dreams and bigger goals where assisting countries are concerned. Surely you don't want to continue helping countries like Zimbabwe with things, not that they're small, but they're small in the grand scheme of things, to be providing maize and providing water and digging boreholes. Surely there's a bigger plan to be more, globally competitive, to make countries elevate themselves to a higher level, where we're talking about space research, where we're talking about, maybe not nuclear warfare is not a good example, but, bigger projects that show that we are well above the basics. Surely as a UN, you don't want to continue on this small level.
I absolutely agree with you. There are, like, in a global escape, 35 UN agencies, funds, and programs.
Right.
And they do different types of support. In fact, we have a atomic energy institution running a program here helping on cancer. So it's not only bringing the maize and giving. In fact, we are helping farmers with maize seeds and millet seeds and fertilizer to help them to be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
So, it's a combination of things we do. But when you are in a crisis, you also need a maize bag.
No, sure.
Otherwise,
crisis is one thing.
the food will not be cooked at home.
100%.
So we work on combination. And as I said, we want to be, redundant ourselves. In fact, there are many countries who have graduated from UN program. South Korea used to be recipient of UN support, including food aid. WFP used to run school feeding program there. Singapore, UNDP used to support Singapore in terms of drawing the urban planning and those sort of things.
Sure.
So the idea is move higher level, as you said.
Definitely.
And we work with the government on these. Absolutely.
Okay, I think I'm glad you understand where I'm coming from. I don't know about you as Zimbabweans locally in the diaspora. Can't we just get a headline one day that says the UN takes 3,000 people to space, as opposed to the UN donates 3,000 bicycles to health workers in the rural areas? I think that we need to aim higher as a country and give the UN bigger work to do. But
I was asked the other day by a journalist, what's your aspiration for Zimbabwe?
Right.
I want to see Zimbabwe prosper, and I want to see Zimbabwe not having to worry about food or school or health, anything, and Zimbabwe join other member countries to help other countries to meet these type of needs. And I'm really hoping that will happen soon.
I think it will. I think we are on the same page. And not to take away anything from what the UN is doing. Those are the efforts you target.
Absolutely.
Because that's what we need as a country. That's where we are as a country. So the pressure is actually on us as Zimbabweans to do better for ourselves before we ask for assistance on other levels. So as I said, platform is yours, so some more comments, I can see them coming in. But while we get into this, there's a comment here that's come from Sir Nige. He says, it is easy to criticize UN efforts. You need to go visit the most vulnerable in Zimbabwe to fully understand how they actually help communities. For example, the recent flood victims. I'm sure you know Sir Nige.
Of course.
Who doesn't? So he's just showing that. I imagine he's probably visited. The nice thing about Sir Nige is he is one of those people that actually goes down to the ground to appreciate it. So there's an applause for the work that you're doing.
we appreciate because he has seen it. In fact, I have traveled myself to the flood-affected area.
Yes.
It's heartbreaking when you see families are being uprooted. I've talked to mothers who has lost her girl, and another family lost their boys. And so devastating. The government staff have lost their life going to go and help. So when you reach to a situation, then the basic thing is a life saving.
Correct.
You need to give them a shelter. So we work to provide a tent. We are helping in terms of bringing water facilities. basic thing as it may sound, but
But
those are life-saving.
That's the need right now.
Exactly.
Correct.
And then working in terms of seeing how to improve medium-term and long-term need of these people. Food, they're getting, moved from a complete villages in a normal situation. So thank you so much for your observation.
We've seen you on the ground, Bishow, and it's actually like you speak Shona, the way you're sitting down on the ground with some of these people. One wonders what the conversation is.
But I have to tell you this. I was talking to one family in the context of drought response, and I was talking to this old lady. She was plus 80.
Wow.
We are transferring, as a part of response program, money to these most vulnerable households through the cell phone. I was so amazed how they got adapted to the cell phone.
Yes.
And the impact of this is once we cut off, she's with the phone. You can imagine. She can talk to her daughter, grandchildren. So this is the long-lasting impact of the aid we're trying to bring.
Sure. No, good. I'm happy to hear this. As we said, hashtag is hashtag UN in Zim, so keep tweeting and let's continue to address your questions. Tafodzo Mushonga says, is there a platform for citizens to engage in the UN processes that concern Zimbabwe?
Absolutely. There are various platforms. In fact, the World Food Program had created a hotline for the communities to contact them if there was any concern related to food they're receiving, or if anybody was not receiving, etc.
Right.
There are websites we have. They can, they can write emails. They can, communicate in Twitter. Mm-hmm. In fact, we're just a little distance away on the internet these days. Absolutely, we welcome feedback, suggestion, and to see how we can improve.
I think I can testify to that. They're very, very easy to find. I mean, I don't think that they would turn away any suggestions from people. Mr. Parajuli himself is very, very active on Twitter. I've never seen him ignore tweets. So I think if you know where to find them, that's at UN Zimbabwe and at Bishow Parajuli. So I think that's a starting point, but also their website is very, very up to date. So do send your suggestions there as Zimbabwean citizens. And then, of course, there's this platform. So instead of asking that question, you could have suggested, which I'll implore you to still do. So if you're still with us, do let us know which areas you feel you'd like to see the UN directly targeting. Moving on to another area, just before we now go to our live audience, is the issue of, I guess, political violence, right? We had an interesting, as I said, time on the streets yesterday, and we'll go to that in a moment, asking young people what they know the UN for. Now, a comment that came in earlier on Facebook from Brendan Dolan, he says, the UN is nothing but a money laundering machine. They only intervene in countries which they can benefit from. Didn't they see how people were brutalized and killed by ZANU-PF last year, or even years before, and what did they say about it? There have been reported cases of political violence in the last 20 years in Zimbabwe, and what have they really done about this? So this is a question about that.
Well, UN is not to provide a security apparatus. It is government. It's the police, it's the mechanism. But what we do to help government strengthen and do these processes is work with the government institution. So in Zimbabwe, we are working with several independent constitutional bodies like Human Rights Commission. We are supporting Human Rights Commission to strengthen its capacity. We have put a various level of resources. We organize training, and capacitate them so they can do these type of work. Similarly, we are working with other types of commissions to help support it. So it is not UN job to be a police or guard from these specific detailed activities, but it is our role is to work to support in terms of system and capacity and those capacity to provide the services.
So if there's political violence, in essence, you'll stand off?
No, I'm not saying we stand off or it's not possible. Few of the staff working in Zimbabwe to be at the middle of a violence and etc.
Do you have UN peacekeeping forces?
No, but Zimbabwe, peacekeeping forces operate on an exclusive mandate, and on invitation of government.
Sure.
It doesn't work
Given state
just
sovereignty
like
and all
that.
of that. No, I
exactly.
understand. Yeah.
So therefore, there are mechanisms for those things, and I think and there are institutions who are very active working on these civil society organizations, and I'm quite impressed with some of the good work of the Human Rights Commission in Zimbabwe.
Sure.
UNDP has an exclusive program supporting Human Rights Commission in different ways. Okay. So I'm hoping that with this mechanism they will address some of the challenges.
Comment here from Sam Zuze. There is a rumor that political parties are using donated UN resources for campaign purposes. How far true is that?
Absolutely not true. We want to be...
One wonders where some of these sources are. You know what I mean? When we talk of rumors, who knows?
As I said, it's not true, and we safeguard all our support in a different way. We have a strong monitoring mechanism, and etc. So I mean, if anybody has a proof, let them share it,
bring it
and
forward.
we take action immediately.
And given the elections coming up next year, there's rumors again, of there being a push for the UN to conduct our elections next year. What are your thoughts on that?
That is not true. UN doesn't conduct election in a sovereign country. There are rules, procedure, and etc. However, what we are involved is on request from government, supporting Zimbabwe Election Commission to build its capacity through the technical assistance.
Right.
So we don't get involved into this. There are exclusive mechanism and procedure and process for UN to get involved.
So for the layman in a Zimbabwean situation, what needs to happen in order for the UN to run our elections next year?
No, UN doesn't run it. It's the government has to make a special request.
Okay.
And
so government has to request?
There are measures. I think it goes through a special mandates and procedures. So for the layman, it's it doesn't happen, and it's. But
it can happen if those procedures are all followed.
Not in a situation like Zimbabwe, I have to tell you, because there are a few countries where UN has help in election
processes.
Request, election process requests from those government and states like Iraq, like East Timor, and after a certain time in Cambodia or Liberia, etc. But normally no. So I think people just make those comments not knowing it.
Not knowing the process, not knowing what it entails.
So
but it's shocking because you hear that from the leaders of political parties and you wonder, you expect that the due diligence has been done. And as I said, headlines are made, dreams are sold. And here we are today asking these ignorant questions. But they come out from, as we said, opposition.
No, the government knows about it and etc. So people who know the rules and procedure related to how UN function, they are aware of this.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, so as we prepare for our break, as I said yesterday, Jeff and I took some time and we went out into the streets of Harare. We went to Zimex Mall. We went to what was the Zimex Mall. Although the structure is gone, there's still a lot of activity happening there. And then we also went to the road port. And we all know what happens in that particular area. So watch this and have a look at what we saw. What is the UN? What does that mean to you?
As in United Nations or UN?
Yeah. The United Nations.
As in United Nations.
What does the UN mean to you?
Right. In United Nations kwandiri yakandinakira. Because United Nations ine painobatsira vanhu kana pakutambudzika. Inogona kutibatsira isu sema vendors patinotengesera panapa. United Nations inga yakationa inogona kutisira kana mashedi kana tavhumirwa necouncil yobva yatibatsira kuti titengese pasinganayi mvura. Kana mvura kana yapanapa 3 days muri dzedu kuZimbabwe dzechifane nzara.
Makamboapila here kwavari pane mukana wamakawana here kuvakumbira zvamuri kuda.
Right, isusu mukana iwoyo tasati tasangana nawo.
But mauwana manje.
Kana tatowana sezvo ndinofara chitipai madirections oti apila sei kuti tikwanise kuzwana saizvozvo ndiri MP wevanhu vepanapa.
Right. As you can hear, the young people of this area, being Zimex Mall in particular, they are happy with what they're doing, a lot of them. But many of them are not close to the idea of having a formal job or having employment. But when they're here, they want to be comfortable. They don't want to be harassed by the city council. They don't want to be told to move when they don't want to move. They don't want to have their prices controlled. They don't want their lifestyle controlled. They don't want their things taken away from them. Many of them get these things outside of our borders. They bring them from outside, be it South Africa, be it Mozambique, but they bring them in, and that's their business business, that's their livelihood, that's what they've been given. So we're here trying to understand that, and it's been a good conversation. And there's been an appeal to the United Nations asking them that if they're going to get involved where unemployment is concerned, where young people are concerned, if anything, they can help with weather conditions, right? They can help them set up stations where they can sell their things so that they're not selling out of the boots of their cars or their car windows, but rather have a place where they can sell things without getting, having to move because it started raining or whatever the case. So it's been interesting to hear from them, and maybe we'll hear a little bit more. When the bond notes hit the market, many people said that within weeks, there were money changes here, changing monies at different rates. But that's not what we're here to discuss right now. We're not here to discuss those technicalities. What we want to know is what the young people in this area are doing. And I've got one, Anonzi America. One Anonzi UN. Do you know what that is?
UN ndongo iziyati aisole nengene zvemasoja zvinozoya kuna na Libya kana kwatana na hondo achinzi vabatsirawo ikoko ndokwatinongoiziro pa TV.
And what does it stand for?
United Nations.
And do you know that there's UN in Zimbabwe?
Yeah, ndinoziya nezvazvo but hativaziye.
Amwazi.
Saka every country dine UN irimo munomu but satiziye nezvazvo.
Amuziye kuti vanoiteka navari munomu.
Vanoita nezvemunomu kana vachita zvinhu zvavanoita ikoko zvoperera ikoko.
Kupi ikoko?
Ameno kwavanenge vachita zvinhu zvavo ikoko. Ndokusaziya kwatinovaita ikoko.
Okay, thank you America. Pakaipa. Ndikataura zita rekuti UN unorizwisisa?
UN. Handirizivi.
Hauizi?
Handirizivi.
United Nations?
Handirizivi.
Wakambowanzwa?
Handikamborinzwa but handina meaning yaro handirizivi.
Pane ane meaning here ye-UN, pane anoiziwo.
United Nations. Kuti tikwanise kuexplain nezvazvo zvinototinetsa. Haimbosiya.
Ndakapfura nekwazvaitwa.
Wakapfura nekwazvaitwa?
United Nations mubatanidzwa wenyika dzepasi rino rese. Unenge unobatsira pasi rino rese kana kunga pasi rino rese. Mazwiro andinoitawo.
Zvavanoita muZimbabwe munozvinzwisisa here?
Zvavanoita muZimbabwe tinyatsozvinzwisisa mukatotibatsirawo.
I'm 35 asandamboshanda kana kuti kubasa kunoendwa nekupi I don't know. Chandinongoziva inini kuba mustreet titori mbavha kana mumba handiziye kuti munorarwa sei.
Yatinoti United Nations muno muZimbabwe inoti inouya kuzobatsira nyika handiti ine mabasa akawanda inoita inobatsira kueducation, yobatsira kuhealth, yobatsira kudevelopment. Imimi mukasangana neUN mukavabvunza kuti imimi zvamauya munyika medu tibetsirei nechakati chimwe chamungavakumbire.
United Nations chekutanga ini ndoiziva iri kuna Iraq kunyika dzezvehondo ndofunga kuti United Nations ndezvehondo kunokwanisa ndambosangana nayo kana ikauya kunoku hatiioni pamwe pane vanoibata vobva vaitora vobva vaiisa kusite kwavo yoenda kusite kwavo isusu kunoku hatiizive kana mota United Nations asandaiona ndakaiona mumafirimu. Some things.
Thank you. All right, you heard it. We're here at the road port, and we're going to be talking more and more with the young people of Zimbabwe, finding out how they live, why they're living like that, and what their concerns are. Hearing from them what they want, not just out of perhaps our peacekeepers, our law enforcers, our government, our leaders. We're going to be doing more and more of this to find out on the ground what is going on in our Zimbabwe. What is the UN? All right, as you saw, that was us yesterday. There was so much else that they had to share. Whenever you ask a young person to talk about their life, I'm sure they go on and on. But in the focus of what the United Nations is, you saw that some of them are not fully aware of what the work that the UN is doing in Zimbabwe. But what was of particular interest was the first comment when we were at Zimex Mall, the former Zimex Mall, Muna Jason Moyamuyamia, Janzi. They would like to ask of the UN. When I said, what would you ask them? They said, we want to formalize our trade. They're very comfortable being unemployed on the streets, a lot of them, because they don't have the education to actually get employed. So they've sort of found peace with that. But they said if the UN could do anything, it would be to build formal structures so that they can formalize their own trade. So they're not being harassed by the city council, not being removed, not getting into fights with their colleagues, because there's a lot of territory issues. So would the United Nations look at something like that in terms of building formal structures so that they're weatherproof and they're safe and all of that?
Well, actually, I mean, that's a very interesting question. one of the UN agency, UNDP, is currently supporting in some of the provinces in partnership with the small and medium enterprises on these type of things.
Right.
In fact, there are several provisions being made. There a group of 10, 15, 20 people are given a certain amount of money, and then they trade, and then they rent some of these permanent structure and work and do their trading.
Sure.
They go and buy stuff in Botswana or South Africa, and then this has, I've seen it myself.
Yeah.
It's been
That's
very
how they
impressive
live. That's
work.
how they survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one point I want to comment on the UN as such. Maybe there could be one element why UN as such is not known to some of these people, because when you go to the villages, who is really delivering water, education support?
It's
UNICEF.
UNDP, it's UNICEF, it's,
who is delivering food? It's World Food Program.
Right.
Who is delivering health support and etc.? It's WHO
USA.
and others, and so therefore, and agricultural support, it's FAO. So they are usually known in these specific names.
Sure.
So it could be that element sometimes brings the misunderstanding.
Yeah. All right, so a comment along that while that clip was playing came from Ndini Tabiwacho. Tabi saying NGOs should be eradicated. Simple. They are the ones who maintain poverty in our countries. Hip-hop artist Akon managed to provide electricity for a village in a year when NGOs fail to achieve these long-term solutions. It's a plot to ensure Africa remains poor.
It's very unfortunate.
Do you want to hand that to your colleagues in the audience?
No,
you can throw it over.
No, I'm happy to, because I'm a stronger believer in partnership and added value from NGOs. There are enormous good work NGOs are doing in Zimbabwe and around the world.
Right.
I must say, I've seen it. We have partnered with it. In fact, UN works with many civil society organizations.
Sure.
This is a completely false understanding
of what's being done. No, but it's one of those things, it's conspiracy theories. You know how people are. They will not hesitate. There'll never fail to be a comment like that where this conversation is concerned.
But I would really like to change the mind of that person who has this person and want to invite him and come and see
what you're doing,
what NGO is doing, how they're adding value. Frankly, they would be really, I mean, I don't know, they'll change their mind totally from the moment they see it.
Right. Okay, let's come to our audience right now, okay? You've been here with us since we started, and I don't know if any of you have questions. We'd take those now, or even comments to support or to answer some of the areas that you've seen have been raised during the conversation, or to corroborate any comments from Mr. Parajuli. So I'll give that platform to you now, if there's anything you'd like to add. Charmaine will give you the microphone. And you could just introduce yourself and then go on with your suggestion.
Thank you very much. My name is Eddie Rowe. I'm the country representative of the UN World Food Program. I think this is an excellent platform to have the views of our resident coordinator on a global agenda and one of his own signature legacy in Zimbabwe, and how the UN, acting as one and working with the government to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals.
I'd like to ask a question to you, sir. One of the tweets that I found on Bishow's timeline, I need to now stalk your timeline, was that he was saying he was just supporting the efforts being made by government, particularly where ZUNDAF was concerned, saying that the cooperation has been plausible. So I wanted to find out from you what challenges that you have faced, if any, where dealing with government, where resource allocation is concerned.
Quite honestly, when it comes to resource allocation, we do mobilize resources outside the government's purview.
Is that deliberate?
Yeah, we do. It is surprising to note that there are certain ministries within the government that we have very strong collaboration.
Right.
And collectively, we've made quite a significant impact on the lives of people, particularly in the rural areas.
Sure.
The Ministry of Public Sector, Labor, Social Welfare is one case in point where collectively we've been able to save lives during the peak of the drought. The other area where perhaps people are not too aware of is the amount of capacity that the government brings into the types of work we do in our resilience programs. Most of the work are done by technical staff in various technical ministries. For example, developing or constructing community assets. We use the Ministry of Health, workers like the veterinaries, the agri-techs, and these people would work with us in the most remote areas,
right.
Without asking for salaries, but just giving their technical expertise towards ensuring that these communities have assets that would benefit the whole community. So you have quite a lot of positive things coming up. Perhaps what is missing is how we showcase some of these good works that we've been able to achieve collectively.
Sure. You can just keep the mic because I have another follow-up question. Sorry. I think because I learned here from WFP, I'm now quite excited. One thing I also found was the struggle to mobilize resources, especially in the recent flood situation, to mobilize help from Zimbabweans themselves. So my question would be, and maybe this can appeal to all the other bodies that are here, how much help does local Zimbabwe give to local Zimbabwe that you found?
I know, for example, the Red Cross is a classic example of the kind of volunteer work that Zimbabweans provided during the drought. But we should not also underestimate some of the local authorities' sacrifices that they've made towards alleviating the sufferings of these communities. I have worked with some very outstanding local authorities, district administrators, councillors who would sacrifice time, effort to make sure that our programs reach out to the communities.
But are Zimbabweans mobilizing resources or goods or food or blankets or, you know? That
Yeah, well, I give you an example. The local staff in the World Food Program, just 2 weeks ago, made a handful of contributions, both in kind and cash, to the flood victims of Shosholo. Cholocho. I know even UNICEF and WHO, you have this type of gesture. We've not seen that much from the civil society, but I'm a foreigner here, and I can see the goodwill gesture of Zimbabweans towards Zimbabweans.
Sure. All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments from our audience? Baba Faye, Magasimbe. Iowa Tiripo. Please, can you give Baba Faye a microphone?
Thank you. I'm Dunstan Magesa. Aka Baba Faye. I developed or I came up with a new farming concept or an idea, mainly to mitigate global warming or climate change. And my target group is mainly the rural people. And I don't know how or where I can take this concept to. And I'm very worried. I'm a worried man because if I die, I'm going to go with that concept into my grave.
Yeah, thank you, Baba Faye.
Mainly to boost food security and to eradicate poverty, mainly for our vulnerable group.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Baba Faye. I think there's a response there before we bring it back to Mr. Parajuli.
My name is Charlie Tumelo. I'm the ITU representative for Southern Africa. ITU stands for International Telecommunications Union, the specialized agency for the UN. I'd like to maybe advise Baba Faye.
Yes.
Yeah, Baba Faye, that the Ministry of ICT is dealing with innovations. Innovations in agriculture, innovations in health, innovation in all the sectors. So if you went to the Ministry of ICT and you give them the concept, they are going to assist you how you can bring up your concept with ICTs in whatever you're doing.
So are you redirecting him to the ministry and just asking him to understand how he can get his program absorbed into what the ministry is currently doing?
That looks like it's an innovation that needs to be
Are you
assisted.
able to assist as ITU?
Oh, yes. Yeah, no. But through the Ministry of ICT.
Right, sure. Okay.
Shall I make a small comment?
Yes, I think Bishow wants to add to that.
Okay, we have come with, there was a question before as well, like, we're working on a short-term program and moving to long-term and etc. In fact, during the crisis time, we work on a short-term program because these are targeted period. But we are also looking at program. We have a special program on resilience building, for example, funded by originally now with the European Union and DFID is being managed by UNDP. There, the idea is resilience building. It is helping people with innovation, finding new ways in terms of how to sustain people's livelihood in different forms, be it in the agriculture or health or other areas. I would recommend, if you have ideas, you have our email address, UN, UNDP, or any of the agencies, and we can certainly look at its merit and guide it. There is FAO very much involved in this program. So we do welcome, if anybody, I'm inviting this through your this great platform, and that when anybody has any ideas. But of course, also I have to tell you, we get hundreds of little proposals for funding and etc. Our resource level is limited. We cannot fund, enormous all project, all proposal. But we look at the merit, and if it has the merit, absolutely.
You do.
We look for innovation.
Sure. If somebody has a solid proposal and they come with it. All right. Well, that's very good to know, and that positive attitude that we saw earlier is still coming through. Some comments here on Facebook. Tsitsi Zireva Prince says, "Thank you for being honest, Bishow." I'm not sure in what reference to which particular comment, but maybe it's a collective about the whole interview. And then Joseph Wekwamurisi says, "It's not what the UN can do for Zimbabwe, but what Zimbabweans can do for Zimbabwe." Comment there.
When we are working with government or civil society or communities, now we are bringing values and some resources. But in a broad way, is Zimbabwean also joining us to help Zimbabwean?
Sure.
So they're part of this equation. So we're not just coming in and then doing what. So in fact, all these ideas, innovation, partnership, the civil servant from cross-section of ministries, that's Zimbabwean joining in. So we are in partnership into this process. So I think we are working on together. But what will help is people to watch, to make sure if there are any issues concerning misuse or any good ideas and etc. to bring to our attention. That will help Zimbabwe and help themselves.
Good. I like that. I think that's definitely a positive note to end on as we wrap up the program now. Thank you for your time, Mr. Bishow Parajuli. It's been a pleasure sitting down with you for these 60 minutes you've awarded us. I think we've all taken away a lot, learned a lot more about what the UN is doing, appreciated your efforts, your attitude toward us as a people, and definitely will be there to support all the other work that you're doing. So thank you very, very much.
I want to also profoundly thank you for giving us the opportunity to communicate with ordinary Zimbabwean and everybody. Our commitment to Zimbabwe and Zimbabwean people stands, and we are every day trying to do the best, strive the best. We stand to improve further, and that can be done only by working together with Zimbabwean people. And as you rightly said, we need Zimbabwean from outside to join in and increase the efficiency. Overall, I would say this from all these years of experiences, the development aid partnership, they are only part of the input. It's the country, the people itself have to work to bring a complete change.
Sure.
So I always say this, aid alone will never help.
No.
Those are temporary measures. They are catalysts, they are synergies. As I was giving you an example of Singapore, or South Korea. Look at it where they are. They took little help and they flew further. And this is what we want to contribute to.
Sure.
And we are delighted to be partner working with all of you. Good. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we've got some winners of the caps and vests. I believe my team's going to let me know who we're giving those away to. So please let me know that. But in the meantime, I'd like to thank our sponsors that made this show happen. I'd like to thank the UN, of course, for being here and awarding us the time to chat with you and get a bit deeper into understanding. Instead of just reading newspaper headlines and all that, I do encourage everybody to visit these websites. As Mr. Parajuli rightfully said, some of us might not know what the UN does, but we know what their subsidiaries do. We have all heard of the World Food Programme. We have all heard of UNICEF, UNFPA. So let's get acquainted with what the work is that's being done on the ground so that we don't sit ignorantly and think that they're not affecting or touching lives on the ground. So I'd like to now acknowledge Davies Events, Kuyana Floral and Event Designs, Dusk Home, and of course, as I said, the United Nations. So I'm waiting on our winners for our prizes today. So thank you again for bringing those. It's always nice when our guests bring something. It's not often that we have things to give away. So that's definitely encouraging. So we're giving t-shirts, a field jacket and a cap to Tsitsi Zreva Prince, who is all the way in America, by the way. I know that for a fact. Yeah, so I mean, our market is, our audience is all over. As I said, these Zimbabweans in the diaspora that still want to tap in and understand. So Mr. Zreva Prince, I don't know how we're going to get you your cap and your field jacket, but maybe you can assign someone locally to pick it up for you. Another winner is Tafadzwa Mushonga. Again, you can let us know your location. I haven't got that yet, and we can get your prize to you. And then we have Ndini Tabiwacho, also winning there. And I would like to personally award to our two cameramen who are here, particularly Jason and Dunster, who's in the back. I think they definitely deserve those field jackets and caps. And then, quite befitting, Sir Nige is also going to take home a cap and a field jacket because he definitely deserves that. And then we also have Tyra Chikocho, Madam Boss, who should be paying attention on her tour in England, but she's busy watching us on Facebook Live. So Madam Boss, you also take away a cap and a field jacket. Thank you for tuning in, you guys, and we hope that you enjoyed the program. If anything, we hope you enjoy your prizes. So thanks again, and that's it from us tonight. We'll be back again next week, Thursday, same time. I'm sure you've all noted that we've changed our time. By request, actually, and many people were saying that the 4 p.m. CAT slot wasn't working for many people. Those that can't actually Skype in the office were struggling to watch the show while they're at work. So we have adjusted the time. We will now be here 6 p.m. every Thursday. So we'll catch you next week, and we'll let you know what will be coming then. That's it from me. I'm Ruvheneko. Good night for now. Be good, and if you can't be good, be safe.
As an organization globally, we are commemorating 50 years. In Zimbabwe, we have been here for almost 4 decades. And therefore, we really have a long history, a long story to tell over those 4 decades. As UNDP, we are best known for capacity development work, helping governments in their policy formulation and implementation. We do a lot of institutional capacity building, as well as from time to time we do have what we call downstream activities where we engage with communities on various pilot initiatives trying to test some of the policies that have been approved by government. So just to give you an overall picture of what is UNDP's focus, and especially at this particular point in time. There are 3 pillars. We are looking at the first pillar, inclusive growth and sustainable livelihoods. And here, obviously, some of the areas include supporting government in the formulation and implementation and advocacy around pro-poor policies. All the work around SDGs fit into this pillar. We supported the establishment of 30 savings and credit cooperatives, working obviously through the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprise. And here I should say that in our work with the SMEs, we collaborate with other UN organizations. For example, ILO is quite active in providing advisory skills to some of these business ventures that are undertaken at the local level. The second pillar of UNDP's work is democratic governance, and here we are looking at justice, protection of human rights, and legal reform. And many of you will be familiar, for example, with the work that we supported during the constitution-making process. That whole process, UNDP supported the Parliamentary Select Committee that was leading this process, including managing basket funding that supported the funding of this process, technical assistance, and so on. UNDP, together with other UN agencies, I know UNICEF too, we've been supporting the Legal Aid Directorate to strengthen its capacity to be able to help those people who cannot afford legal services, because obviously lawyers' fees are normally expensive and out of reach for many Zimbabweans. In addition, we've also helped in trying to decentralize legal aid access to other areas so that at least communities are able to get this kind of services, and also undertaken remand prison visits. And then on the climate change and resilience, this is extremely important for the country, and especially now that we're experiencing the El Nino-induced drought. Obviously, we have to look at the immediate concerns, the humanitarian needs as of now, but also the long term. And this is where climate adaptation becomes extremely important. All the issues around disaster risk reduction and building resilience of communities. And we have worked with government, for example, in installing other types of energy sources, such as the biogas digestion at the Harare Central Remand Prison, and also in schools, for example, the Sandringham School, which uses biogas for cooking. So at the policy level, what we do, we've helped the Ministry of Energy in coming up with this renewable energy policy, as well as from a climate mitigation perspective. We've also supported the Ministry of Environment, Water and Climate in coming up with climate response strategy and renewable energy. All the policies we do, the capacity building that we do, our aim is to try and ensure that ultimately it impacts on or benefits people on the ground. Ultimately, this is what UNDP is all about.
When natural disaster strikes, the United Nations is often the first on the ground, working with governments, aid groups and volunteers to bring emergency humanitarian relief. This is just one aspect of the UN's work, which includes bringing clean water to communities in need, vaccinating children, helping farmers to improve their harvest, and much, much more. Today, the United Nations is the one truly global forum with 192 nations represented in the General Assembly. The UN helps to build national institutions, trains the police, assists the justice systems, and support democratic elections. To sustain peace, development is needed. Development that includes the poorest, almost 1 billion people on Earth, 1 out of every 6, who struggle to survive on less than $1 a day.
The new ZUNDAF with $1.6 billion worth of program will assist the country in areas of poverty and value addition, food and nutrition security, social services and protection, HIV and AIDS.
The absence of social services infrastructure in most resettlement areas in Zimbabwe is evidence that the government continues to face major challenges in the adequate provision of these services. Amongst other priorities identified by the Ward 20 community is the construction of a clinic to improve health service delivery in the area. The clinic is expected to serve at least 18 villages in the ward who are traveling distances of between 15 and 30 kilometers to access health services.
H4+ is working in 6 of the hardest to reach districts where health indicators have been extremely poor, representing 11% of the total population.
We were advised that our daughters need time for their bodies to develop, and marrying them off at a tender age exposes them to the possibility of maternal and newborn deaths. I noticed a positive difference in Petronella, my daughter, and this was brought on by her involvement with Katswe Sisterhood. As a result, I began supporting her by advocating for the same.
The Condomize campaign provides free condoms and safe sex education, removing the stigma associated with condoms and teaching people how to protect themselves, their partners, and their communities. Don't compromise, condomize.
I get maybe 550 kgs if we've got rains. But last year, I think I only got 10 kgs or so. This year it was worse.
WFP, in partnership with government and the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization, launched the Small Grains Production Project in Mwenezi to enhance the resilience and food security of highly vulnerable communities affected by climate shocks.
In the sweltering heat of Buhere district in Manicaland province, scores of farmers are toiling away at the Mafuratidze Solar Micro Irrigation Scheme in Ward 22. The community-based planning approach allowed the community to craft development priorities for the ward.
A program launched by the International Labour Organization, UN Women, United Nations Development Program, and the government of Zimbabwe has begun to empower women in rural communities in a way that promises to bring about significant economic